So now on a 70.3, because that's all the nutrition that I'll take on the bike, and I might not use all of it, it means that I can get rid of the rear bottle cage. Just remember that if we're fat adapted and we're fueled by fat, we don't need to take anything in for energy. I saw this guy and this little boy, and I noticed that it's actually Lionel with his son Levi. Hi everyone, and welcome to the third and final installment of my 70.3 Oceanside Race Week series. In this video, I'm going to be talking about my race day nutrition plan and how things went on the day. I'll share with you any lessons that I learned, so hopefully that will be of use to you in the future. The products that I'm going to be talking about, I've gone through these in detail in my last video, so you may want to watch that first before coming back to this video. And stay tuned, because towards the end of this video, I have a cool little story to share where I accidentally bumped into the winner of the male pro race, Lionel Sanders, the morning after. With regards to race day nutrition, everything that I'm going to go through in this video, I've tried on a daily basis with my training leading up to the race. And so these are things that are well practiced, and I'm sure you know that that's something that you've got to do in the build up to the race, is get used to what you're going to do on race day so that there aren't any surprises. One thing I would say though is that keep an open mind, because depending on how you feel on race morning and during the race, you may have to make some adjustments as you go along, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. The key is to tune into your body and listen to what's happening and make the right decisions at the right time so that you're fueling properly. With a race start of 7 AM, I was up at 4 AM and in the shower. I put the coffee machine on. I like a small cup of black coffee in the morning, whether I'm training or racing. It's something that I've done for a long time. It may not be something that I continue to do in the future, but that's for another video at some point. In training, on long rides and so on, big sessions, I found that sometimes I really enjoy a very small breakfast, maybe a couple of boiled eggs or something. So that's what I had on race morning for Oceanside 70.3. However, I found out later on in the race, particularly at the beginning of the run, that I felt a bit bloated. And actually, when I think back on it, if I'd listened to my body, I was sufficiently filled from the night before, from my meal and so on. And actually, I don't think I needed those 2 boiled eggs. And in the future, if I feel like that, then I'm not going to have anything, because I'm sure I would have been fine without them. Just before I left the hotel, I had a couple of magnesium glycinate tablets, and these are to aid with reducing muscle cramps through the race. So I took a couple of these, and I'll talk more about them later on. About 90 minutes before the race, I'd start sipping on a blend. First part of the blend is what's called a raspberry bomb, and within this is exogenous ketones, and they're bound to both electrolytes and caffeine, so you're getting those in there. Essentially, this is flooding the body with exogenous ketones. Now, in my last video, you'll have noted that I said that when you do this, it switches off the body's own production of ketones. However, if you take the raspberry bomb and you blend it together with some MCT powder, then the body doesn't switch off and the body continues to create its own ketones as well. The MCT powder goes straight into your system and almost instantaneously converts into ketones. So it's a blend of the MCT powder and the raspberry bomb, and I put that in a bottle, somewhere around 500 milliliters, just nice little flask, and sip on that over the course of maybe 45 minutes or so. So I'm finished it more than half an hour before the race. So with regard to bike nutrition, I would fill a 700 ml bottle with a blend of the MCT powder and the Electrolytes Plus. So blend these in, 700 milliliters, and I would use this to fill the hydration system on the bike. So just pour that in. There's a bladder in the down tube here, and during the race I would be sipping on it through this hose here. The other thing I would carry in a 70.3 is I've got an aero bottle here, so 500 ml, an ideal size to make another one of these blends of the raspberry bomb and the MCT powder. So MCT powder and raspberry bomb in here, and that goes onto the bike like that. The other thing that I wanted to carry was, in case I wanted something different from fluids, I would take something solid. And so these keto bars with the 5 grams of MCT in them, ideal for a bit of an energy boost, especially if you want something solid rather than liquid. And so I take one of these and put it in the bento box like so. Now on a 70.3, because that's all the nutrition that I'll take on the bike, and I might not use all of it, it means that I can get rid of the rear bottle cage, making the bike a little bit lighter and so on, but essentially not carrying too much. So how did the race go itself? Well, it didn't go too well from the point of view of the hypothermia and so on, as I've mentioned. And if you want to watch the other video on that, then that'll take you through that story. But when I was on the bike, I was sipping on the electrolytes and MCT powder. And what I was finding was, I think I'd made the blend a little bit too strong. The sort of cherry flavour of the electrolytes had a little bit of a sharpness to it that kind of tickled my throat as I was trying to swallow. I think that combined with the sort of salt water residue that was kind of in there as well, I was actually finding it a little bit unpleasant to swallow as I was cycling along. But I think what I'll do in the future is I'm going to just make sure that the blend of MCT powder and electrolytes on the bike is nice and smooth. And I don't think I actually need to put as much electrolytes in there. I think I just want a nice smooth flavour that when I'm drinking it, it'll taste absolutely fine. I'll be able to swallow it. But as I was going along, I didn't take much fluid in at all on the bike because I just wasn't needing it. I wasn't wanting it. You could even hark back to Taylor Knibb from last year when she says that she didn't drink anything on the bike and she didn't eat enough. Now, she's not saying that was a good thing, but it just shows that a pro like Taylor, who won by miles, didn't actually take in any fluid on the bike. But I just sip to how I feel. And in some races, I'll really be ready for a good drink on the bike. And other times it's like, no, I'm good, I can carry on. With regards to the raspberry bomb and the MCT powder mix, what I'll do is about halfway through the bike, I'll start to sip on this and I'll make that the priority because it's got the caffeine in it, it's bound to electrolytes anyway, it's got the exogenous ketones in it, it's going to give you a real boost, especially when you're going to be moving on to the run next. So for about the last, say, hour on the bike, I'll switch between the raspberry bomb and the electrolytes, but the more and more the bike ride goes on, the more I'll prioritise getting as much of that 500 millilitres in as I need. One other thing was that because I was not enjoying the electrolytes and the MCT powder because I was finding it hard to swallow it, I did actually, about 15 minutes before the end of the bike, I was like, I want to make sure I've definitely taken in enough energy and like the MCT stuff. And so I decided to have the keto bar, and given how disgruntled I was with how I was feeling and my body wasn't warming up after the swim and so on, and it was kind of like, oh, my race is over and all this kind of thing, watch the other video. It was almost like this keto bar was like, I'm going to have the keto bar. It's almost like a little snack, a little treat that might, I don't know, psychologically pick me up a little bit. And to be honest, it did. It didn't help too much with the rest of the race as far as my body was concerned by that point. But no, so I had that. But in the 70.3 Worlds in Topau, for example, in New Zealand, I didn't feel the need for having any solids. I just stuck to the fluid mixtures on the bike. With regards to run nutrition, one of the key things that I use is a race belt, and I'm sure most of you have got a race belt and you use one. The one I use has a reasonable size pouch because I do carry a few things with me. So in the pouch itself, I will carry the following things. I'll carry magnesium glycinate tablets, and I'll probably put about 4 of these in. The reason being that when you're running, if you go to get one of these or 2 of these out of your race belt, then it's possible you might drop them. So, have some redundancy there and bring some extra ones with you. So what I'll do is I'll put these in a little like plastic bag, pop them in the race belt, and as I set off, I'll take a couple of these tablets at the beginning of the run, again to aid with muscle cramping. The other thing I will take are called caffeine bullets. I've halved the caffeine bullets. If you watch my other video, you'll see what was going on there. And again, put these in the race belt. If I've decided I might need one on a 70.3 or two on a full Ironman, then I'll double up again. I'll make sure I carry a bit extra in case you take one out and you drop one or whatever. You know, once you've unwrapped it, if you drop it, I'm not sure you want to put it in your mouth, but anyway, so you'll make sure you carry plenty. Regarding the caffeine bullets though, since my last video, I've decided that I'm probably going to switch away from these moving forward. I took a good look at the ingredients and I've discovered that they're not as clean as I would like them to be. They do contain, I think, about 6 grams of carbs in one full bullet, so this is about 3 grams here, but also the other ingredients don't look so good. So one thing I'm considering are the electrolyte capsules with caffeine from Salt Stick, or I may even consider buying my own capsules and making up the electrolytes from the KETO-PRO with a bit of crushed caffeine in there, and that'll be good for running in the future. The third and final thing that I carry in the race belt are the electrolyte tablets from Salt Stick, which I like to put underneath my tongue as I'm running, and they just dissolve as you run. And so what does this mean regarding the aid stations? Well, I tend to rely on purely the water at the aid stations for both drinking, putting it in my mouth to swirl around, pouring over me to try and stay cool. And also I'll pick up in warm conditions some ice, and I really find that if I put the ice down the back of my tri-suit or just hold a piece in my hands, then that really helps with cooling when it's getting really warm. So how did the run go from a nutrition perspective? Well, I was using the water at the aid stations. I was taking the electrolyte tablets, putting them under my tongue from the race belt. I did take a couple of the magnesium glycinate tablets at the beginning of the run, and I did actually drop a couple, so yeah, carry more than you need. As far as the caffeine bullet's concerned, I took one, I think about a third or to halfway through the run. I thought, I feel like I need some kind of pick-me-up. I'll try and take a caffeine tablet. However, it wasn't really the nutrition that was an issue. If you watch my race video, you'll see that the main issue with regards to this whole race was the sort of mild hypothermia that I suffered on the swim, and it caused me all sorts of bother for the rest of the race. So during the run, I pulled the plug on really trying hard at about the kilometre 13 marker. So with about 8k to go, I kind of eased off and just sort of nursed myself to the end of the race. But still I was having the water every aid station and carrying on with the electrolytes under my tongue as well. So what lessons would I take away from this race? Well, the first thing is in the morning, if you're going to have breakfast, then just check in with how you feel. If you feel like you want to have your usual breakfast, then of course go ahead and have it. But if you think, you know what, I'm full, I don't really need anything, then don't worry about it. Just don't have the breakfast, because you might find that you're a bit bloated later on in the race. As far as the swim's concerned, in particular if it's a saltwater swim, I might have a little bottle of fresh water next to my bike in T1, so that when I come out of the water, I think I might take a swig of that, swirl it around my mouth. I just think something to freshen up the mouth would be quite good, because on the bike then when I'm drinking, the salt water taste hopefully will have gone somewhat. On the bike, I would say make sure the blend of fluids that you have on your bike are nice and smooth tasting, nothing that kind of tickles your throat or causes you any issues when you're trying to swallow when you're riding the bike. And as a backup, as well as having fluids on the bike, I would say carry something solid that will give you a bit of a boost if you need it, and that gives you the alternate liquid versus solid fuel. With regards to the run, I would say carry extra stuff in your race belt, so extra magnesium tablets, electrolyte tablets, and so on, in case you drop them as you're running. Rely on the water at the aid stations, and on the run, one key thing is just remember that if we're fat adapted and we're fueled by fat, we don't need to take anything in for energy. We're using the fat in our bodies. We've got the ketones flowing in the bodies, you know, from the other products that we've been taking. So we're very different to a carb dependent athlete. So, you know, trust in what's happening, and if you feel like you don't need to take anything, then don't, because you probably don't need it. With regards to recovery after the race, I like to take the exogenous ketones, chocolate flavour ones from the KETO-PRO. These are just to help aid recovery. Take these in some hot water, and they're lovely to take a couple of hours after the race. So I think that wraps up the race nutrition plan and how things went. I hope some of it's been of use. But before I go, there's one little story that I want to share that happened the morning after, when I bumped into the men's pro race winner, Lionel Sanders. So the morning after the race, after I had breakfast, I was getting everything ready to leave and drive back from Oceanside to Oro Valley in Arizona. And I was staying in a hotel very close to the marina at Oceanside at the harbour. And there was something in my mind that said, I want to go down to the marina. I want to go for a coffee, or I want to go and just have a nice walk around the marina, or there was something that was saying to me, go to the marina. So I went down and I went into where the small set of shops are and restaurants and so on. The coffee place wasn't open that I was looking for. So I thought, well, that's it, I'm done. So as I came out of the doorway of this corridor onto a quiet part of the marina, I saw this guy and this little boy, and I noticed that it's actually Lionel with his son Levi, and there was nobody else around. And I thought, well, take the opportunity. So I went over and introduced myself. I have spoken to Lionel a couple of times before because I train in Oro Valley occasionally. He half knows me. He kind of remembered who I was, so I'm not going to pretend that he knows me really well. But I reckon he knows me a lot better after this. We stood and we chatted for maybe 10 or 15 minutes or whatever, and it was really nice being able to congratulate him on his race win, talk to him about it. He was asking me how my terrible race went because of the hypothermia and so on. But there were a few things that he mentioned that have kind of panned out now, but it was interesting because I was always curious as to whether he was interested in the Ironman Pro Series. And in his latest videos, because he was sick after Oceanside, he's decided that he's not going to pursue the Pro Series anymore. But he was also kind of playing it down, you know, saying that he's not that bothered about it. And I do believe him now that he's been sick after Oceanside. But in the conversation we had, you know, the morning after Oceanside, he's on a high from the win. He was saying that he was planning on going for the Pro Series title, and he was hoping to go to Ironman Texas 3 weeks after. Then he was going to do St. George. He was going to do Lake Placid, and my understanding is that he was going to head to Europe early to do the Nice World Champs, and then head back there again to do Marbella for the 70.3 Worlds as well. But of course he did get sick, and he's no longer pursuing that, but I think he's going to do most of those races. But one of the most interesting things was that it was encouraging to hear that I think he's going to go to Nice or thereabouts, quite a way ahead of the race in order to get some training done in Europe before the race. So fingers crossed that he has a good one there. But yeah, a cool little story. Something was pulling me to that marina, and if you believe in fate, then maybe that's what it was all about. But yeah, great stuff. Okay, well, that wraps up this video. I hope some of it's been of use regarding the nutrition, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video, where 5 days after this Oceanside race, I decided that I was going to try and do the ascent of Mount Lemmon on the outskirts of Tucson on zero carb. So stay tuned and let's see what happened.